Hello, welcome back to the Sushi Life. In this episode, I want to talk about avatar, like 3D avatar, making 3D heads. Um, Before we even start anything in Blender, I want to go through some of the inspirations. Mr. Potato Head, everyone plays with this at some point. Plastic head, you can put together all kind of items to make a face on a shape that looks like a potato. So this is a cool little toy. These days, digitally, you have. Okay, this is me first from Nintendo. I think they're recreating this. Maybe for in the future they will recreate me first. I think they get rid of it somehow, unfortunately. But that's me first, and we also have this Apple Memoji, Animoji that you can customize using their own presets. You can actually make thousand different variations. I'm also aware of things like Monster Hunter. This is like more for AAA game, AAA games, where you can create realistic characters, customizing it. There's also MetaHuman. This is gonna be pretty big if you are using Unreal Game Engine. So this is cool. You can make your own avatar. But I'm thinking, okay, I look at Picasso face art. This is actually much more playful and it's good for meditational, some kind of form of meditations. Just becoming like a child, like trying to make a 3D face like kids. I think that should be a good start and inspirations. Could be a little bit weirder. It doesn't need to be perfect. So okay, you in Blender, you know already. You can see we have the monkey head here. This is some kind of form of avatar. You can paint on it. You can deform it using Sculpt tool if you want. But we're gonna make something from scratch. You can start with the default cube, and so it's gonna be more boxy, or you can start with a sphere shape. If you don't want to do anything, you just want to start sculpting, you can actually go File, New, and Sculpting. Don't save. We have this suddenly different panel, everything is different. We have just the Sculpt tool. This is not a bad start actually. You just need to be aware of the front view, so you can start modeling from the front view. And there's so many tools in Blender, including Sculpt tool, but for this, to make something really simple, you can use grab or elastic deform, and you can enable symmetry if that's what you want, and start grabbing and sculpting. Okay, this grab really is too small for what we're doing. I'm gonna use elastic deform, increase the radius, and start deforming this with symmetry on, because we want to have something like a Mr. Potato Head. The thing is, because this is like 3D, and very often you forgot it's 3D, you need to move around using middle mouse button, look at it from the side, and start sculpting. That way, sculpting is not the easiest, but we have this form and 3D form to work with. So sculpting is good, but it's also slightly more intimidating if you are someone who never sculpt in 3D. You probably play around with Play-Doh before. It's pretty close to that. But you have, in Blender you have all kind of tools that you can work with to make your own head, whatever it is. First time, it doesn't need to be perfect. I think everyone will actually come out with like a strange looking face. However, it's a good start, so you make a scalp or something, you're gonna give like nose, eyes, mouth. It's always like that. Maybe a little bit of ears or maybe hair. Yeah, after your sculpting, very likely you want to do some painting, so you want to use either texture painting or vertex painting. Vertex painting is simpler because you just have a color and you just paint on it. I have it with the symmetry on, but yeah, you can have it with symmetry off, turn off. Currently I'm just doodling around. Yeah, we can have different color for the eyes. Blue eyes always work. A bit of black and a little bit of eye highlight. And you might be aware of the resolutions here. We are working with a high poly for sculpting, but yeah. Anyhow, right click, shade smooth, so it's a bit smoother. This guy you can shade. So from sculpting, this is working in the sculpt mode. This is not object mode. Now we are in the shade. We are in object mode in the shade mode, but we lost our texture because we need to add vertex color here, and we need to bake it. Okay, this is one way to do it, and you can add light, things like that. For super beginner Blender users, maybe, yeah, it's a good start. Although it might not be like the most correct way, but this is simple and fun. Okay, that's the main idea. Sculpting, and then you go to vertex paint, select the objects, go to vertex paint and start painting, and then you go to shading. In the shading mode, you can play around with the materials and give a render. This is becoming the head. If you want to turn this into AR, you need to bake this vertex color into texture, into image, and then you export it out as GLB. So this become your avatar head. Okay. Now, if you want to do it with the default cube, default box, you can do that. And just, okay, this is like the default Blender layout, and you need to be aware of the front side, things like that. Sometimes you don't know where you are. If you Shift A and create a monkey head, you can tell, okay, the front is where the monkey head is facing. But, or you can use like a tilde, using tilde button, go to the front. Now you know this is a front view, just to be aware of. And then the tool to create 3D face, there are all kind of ways, you know. You can work in edit mode, which is what, a little bit more advanced. You know, if you go to edit mode by hitting tab, switching between object and edit mode, you are working with vertices, edges, faces. This is probably scary for most people, but maybe maybe you want to work this way. So I'll just make a loop cut, you know, and I go to the face. Now I want to select the face, and then I hit I, and then doing the inset, and then extrude using E. So inset, extrude, select two face, inset, extrude. So this is one way how you can create a character, and then you smooth it using subdivisions, and then you paint it, and then maybe you sculpt it. It's a lot, you know, it's a lot, but just bear with me. You can work this way. It's not a bad way to create an avatar. It's at least you have like the topology correct with something for eyes, you know, eyeballs, slot, mouth. But okay, you can also start with a cube, and you can, if you just want to go straight jump into sculpting, you can do that with Sculpt Mode and with the, you just turn on dynamic topology and you start sculpting. You can turn on symmetry if you want to, and use draw tool and start sculpting. The thing with the dynamic topology is that you don't need to worry about the resolutions of your mesh. You can just jump into it. This is also a fun way to do it. Very cool way to do it. Dynamic topology will just create the topology for you and you can start sculpting. I have seen on the street, on the bollard, something similar to this. You know, like the bollard is usually either spherical or like cube shape, and then I saw like a painted face on the bollard. So that's a kind of some sort of avatar. It's cute. People can sit on the bollard. And yeah, I think I made something like this in the past using Blender. So this is just using the draw tool. I'm smoothing and I'm pushing and pulling by holding control. This is also pretty fun, but you are also kind of already working with the sculpt tool. If you're working with the dynamic topology, if you're really far like this, it's different than if you get really close. If you're really close, you can start adding details. This is also pretty fun if you are familiar with the sculpt tool. Okay, so we have some kind of form. You can smooth it, right click, shade smooth. You can turn on shadow and cavity to look at the result. It's not the prettiest, but still, you know, if you want to work like Picasso to make like your own avatar, you don't want to stop with preset. It's not bad. I mean, in the future or when you're playing video game, AAA video games, you get this kind of avatar creators. But I want to work like Picasso, right? I want to work like Picasso. I don't want to sculpt with symmetry. I want to start with a cube, for example. I want to reshape this. So reshaping the cube, you might want to be familiar a little bit just with the face, vertices, and edges, because you want to be able to scale and shape your avatar head. Don't worry about symmetry for now. So that's probably the first thing you want to know. So 1, 2, 3 is for you to switch between vertices, edges, and faces, and then you start dragging this using move, rotate, or scale tool. I'm using a hotkey. So that's one thing, and then you can start adding things like nose, eyes. This is the tool I recommend for you to play with. The cube is a simple one. You can quickly add nose, for example. If you're not very happy with this shape, go to edit mode, select the edges and move it. Okay, that's a good start. There's a shortcut, Shift spacebar. If you don't want to go there all the time, Shift spacebar allows you to go quickly between the tools. So you can start adding cylinder. For example, your character avatar needs to have that kind of shape. Antenna. You can, okay, Shift spacebar, add a cube, make some kind of ears. So we work like Picasso now. We really, I mean, we don't care about the shapes anymore. I mean, we don't care about symmetry or perfections. We just want to make something. Okay, so this is a It's interesting, but usually the eyes goes inside the box, right? And the ears need to have some kind of hole. Okay, I want to show you. Okay, let's just save this. Blender Picasso. Let's actually try to cut this box using this box. I recommend you to go to Preference under Bool tool, turn on this tool. Now you can have shortcut like Control Shift B. Okay, that will give you menu. So you can select this, select this, select this, and Control Shift B, and then do a Boolean difference. Okay, weird, it doesn't work because we need to push this a little bit inside. One, two, three. Control Shift B, difference. Now we have something that goes in. Okay, so let's go back, continue. This is the eyebrow, this is another eyebrow. We can have triple, we can have multiple eyes. We have the lips. Okay, this cut, okay, you can do the cut using the Boolean tool. Push this a little bit in, select this, Control Shift B, difference. The ears a little bit too symmetrical. Let's, you can actually use something like a cylinder if that's something you fancy. Because you don't stop here, you can always R, Z, and rotate 90 degrees to make different kind of ears. And you can always duplicate objects, make it smaller. Select this, Control Shift B, make a difference. You can do it this way. You can also go inside. If you want to do like editing in, you can use inset and then edit it that way. There's not a wrong thing. There is no wrong thing in what I'm doing here because it's all just for fun, meditational. Okay, we have something like this. Cool. Yep. Let's make this more interesting. Okay, so we have this. We have a bunch of objects because we are working in object level mode. We can join them together. So I'm gonna save this file, save as. We have our head, character head avatar. If we try to smooth it, okay, we have something totally wacky, totally weird. So you don't want that. Maybe very likely we want to do a remesh, and then we adjust this voxel size. Now it's become like a volume. We can turn on smooth shading. Maybe make this like 0.04. Okay, we have this. If you look at if you go to the tab Z, go to wireframe, we can see it's pretty heavy. This is actually good for sculpting. Apply all. So save this. So if remember when you do like file new and sculpting, you just get a sphere to work with. It doesn't have any form, but you can you can start painting and make your own crazy looking avatar. That's not a bad thing, but still it's better to have some kind of form. That's why we started with our boxes, etc. So if we have something like this, now we can go to Sculpt Mode and you can still play around with grab, elastic deform. You can start deforming your character. So your character is no longer too squarish. So it's like a liquify in Photoshop. Should be pretty fun to do this. So your character is less boxy, and it's a, you know what, this is really unique, okay, because you make this and your avatar is unlike other characters. You can start using like smoothing. I'm holding shift and just painted this around. Sometimes you want to use grab, sometimes you want to use elastic deform. Grab is easier to control, to shape the character. Elastic deform, I think, try to maintain the volume. Use this with a big brush and play around with the strings also. But like I said, the thing with Blender is that there are so many tools available, and sometimes you don't know where to start. You can always start by doing doodles like Chris Pencil, but you probably want to do this. You want to work in 3D, you know. I'm using smooth too much just now. But there is no wrong way, like I said. If you are doing it for fun, just to make your own avatar, or just, you know, for meditational purpose. When you're drawing, it doesn't have to be like drawing that will sell. It's you're making something for yourself at first. You know, it doesn't have to be doesn't need to be impressed. You don't need to make something to impress other people. But that's usually the case. When you're making avatar, if you're using avatar like this, you know, it's different than you're making something from scratch. You feel it's more fulfilling in a way. Okay, so I talked too much. We sculpted this character. We were working in object mode. We never really touch edit mode in this case. So objects and a sculpt, and you can start doing painting. You can do the painting in two ways, vertex paint or texture paint. This guy, if you want to work with texture paint, it's probably better because you don't need to do the baking. I want to show you this to you, but you need to have UV in order to do the texture painting. So if you will try anyway, you know, texture painting, and you want to do something, it says missing UV, materials, texture, 3 things. In order to do that, you need to go to edit mode and then F3, smart UV. This is the fastest way to create UV. Blender will do it for you. Okay, so that's first. And then I'm giving materials. We don't need to worry about the color of material for now because we're gonna paint on top of it anyway. So texture paint. This time you get pink. It doesn't complain much, but when you start painting, it will start complaining. Missing texture detected. Okay, because you need to have a texture that's at least to the base color or roughness metallic. Don't worry too much about all those. Just use base color for now. What's the character color? It's gonna be any color, blue, green, teal, whatever. Okay, cool. Now we have the base color for this character to work with. This is crazy time, so I don't care about the color too much. Eyes, just give like 2 different color. Don't care anymore. Still have this dots. When making a character, I like to have the dots and give a blushing color. And the mouth, okay, make orange color lips. Nose, also give a different color. Nose, you can start adding feet if you want. Nose, feet, tongue, NFT. Eyes, nose, lips. That's a sounds like a song. Okay, our character, our Picasso character is starting to take shapes. If you're fancy, you know, you fancy something weird, you can draw an eyeballs, just painted eyeballs, some kind of tattoo. Just be free, you know, with your creations. Don't worry too much. You might notice that when we zoom closer, we can paint it. We can paint something that's almost like a pixel. So you can go into the details. You can give a mustache, hair. I think this is pretty cool looking character. And this, yeah, it's an antenna. Be careful, don't forget you are working in 3D, so you need to paint the back. Very nice. We can give some kind of treatment, like dots treatment. If your characters have pimple, also nice. Beautiful pimples. Nice, very nice. Okay, cool. Now if you go back to object mode, everything disappear. Because, and don't worry, I mean, don't forget one thing. After you're doing the painting and you make your artwork, this is the texture you want. You need to save it. Okay, you need to save this material base color. Avatar color. Save it. And now, back in this mode, we still cannot see anything because we need to look at it in the texture mode. And if you want to add light, you need to work with the, you need to change the viewport into this mode and start adding sunlight, things like that. But I want to show you also in the shader. This is slightly a little bit advanced, but in Blender you have all kind of tools. You can go deeper, you know, if you want to add like a little bit of metalness, play around with the roughness. In Blender you can even use subsurface scattering. If you want to be fancy with the shading, use subsurface, so it's looking more like a candle. Something like this is actually ready for ready to be used as your avatar. You can file, export, GLB. There's also USD, Universal Scene Description, but for now just use GLB. Save this as your, give it a name to your avatar. This is your avatar, right? So we need to be proud of our creations. We want to show it to your friend, right? You want to share it as AR. This is something that you can export, you can airdrop into your iPad or iPhone and then send it to your parents or your friends. If you are using an app called Reality Composer, you can put this on your face and this is your ready to use avatar. It doesn't have blend shapes for now, but if you want to work with blend shapes and joints and animating the face, it's just a different thing. But for now, at least this character have material, have base color texture, and this is ready to be airdropped into your iPhone. Okay, so this is the creation process of avatar. Custom-made avatar is not like MetaHuman, or it's not like this. It's not even Apple Memoji. This is actually not bad. I just wish it has hand and full body and can be exported. But based on Picasso face inspirations, and this also, you know, it's fun. Using Blender, open source 3D tools, you can create your own avatar. Something you can be proud of, because it's something that you can create, you can customize, you can share with your friend, you can print it out, you can repaint it, whatever. In the future we're gonna try to animate this with bones, maybe, who knows. But anyway, that's the whole process, you know, the whole story. Even though this is not the most realistic, but still this is some kind of creations that you can be proud of. This can be like a forever work in progress. You can start from scratch and make something new. Yeah, because we are working digitally. If you're using Blender, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people like to work with clay, like real clay. That's also pretty cool. If I have access to clay, I will use clay, you know. Go to the nearby art studio. Maybe they have like workshop on clay. But since we're using digital tools like Blender, it's available for you if you have a computer. So this is fun. You can make it more like clay if you use this clay brush, just adding more details like fingerprint, making it less perfect. So there you go. That's the whole story. Hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.